1. The summer between my 7th and 8th grade year, my family switched houses and we moved one city over. It was the end of summer, and the day before school started was the first day we had moved into the house permanently. After completing all of the renovation and getting all of the utilities up and running, it was about 10:30 p.m. I was laying in bed trying to sleep before school the next day. Everyone in the house was also in bed for the night. I started to hear the sound of footsteps walking on the roof above my bedroom, just a few steps at a time, and then the sound would stop for a while before starting again. If you have ever been in a house when someone is walking on the roof, it is a very distinct sound. At first, I thought I was crazy. There wasn't any logical reason for someone to be walking on my roof late at night. I wrote it off as the wind that was blowing a tree branch from a nearby tree onto the roof. I know that the sound of a tree branch hitting the roof doesn't match up with the sound of walking on a rooftop, but it was the only logical conclusion that I could make. I thought about this for a few minutes and looked at my window. There was a sheer curtain over it, and the outside porch light cast the shadows of a nearby tree onto it. I decided that I would watch the curtain to see the wind blowing the tree in time with the sound, to confirm that it was just the tree. The footsteps started again a few minutes later, and no shadows from the tree moved on the curtain. In fact, it was not windy outside at all. I got up and woke my parents up. We all went outside with flashlights, looking around the roof. Nothing was there. Also, the tree near the house came nowhere near close to touching the roof. I went back to bed and tried to get some sleep. It wasn't easy because the footsteps kept coming and going. This sound happened on a pretty regular basis, not every night, and not for a long time, but a few footsteps at a time and with or without wind present. After living in the house for about 3 months with my brother, I had made friends with the neighbor kids across the street. One day their mom was talking to my mom, and my mom asked if she knew the people who lived in the house before us. The neighbor told my mom that it was an old lady who lived in the house alone. One day she went up onto the roof right above my bedroom, and she fell off of the roof, broke her neck, and died. This wasn't the only thing that happened. Over the 3.5 years that I lived in that house, many strange things happened. The telephone would ring with an abnormal ring in the middle of the night. If you answered, there was nothing there. No dial tone, no sound, just nothing, as if the phone was unplugged. Maybe just a buggy phone line because the house was old, but it was still creepy. Another time I woke up in the middle of the night, barely awake, and I see my collection of micro-machine jets floating around the room in a circle. I'm delirious with sleep and just called out, "Knock it off!" They all floated back over to the dresser where they belonged. I went back to sleep. The next morning when I woke up and walked over to the dresser, the micro-machines were all there, but they were not all lined up in a neat row like they should have been, but strewn about, and some of them were flipped over. By the time I was in the 10th grade, my friend Gabe would come over to spend the night at my house. I told him that my house was haunted, as I did anyone that spent the night. The ghost never bothered to show itself for anyone except Gabe. It had some sort of thing for him. I don't know if it liked him or didn't like him. Anyways, Gabe and I are in the living room listening to music. I came out of the kitchen with a glass of water in my hand, take a drink from it, and set it down gently on the table next to me. The glass shatters outward into several pieces. I didn't smash it down hard, and it didn't have a crack in it. But when I say that it shattered outward, I mean it shattered with force and not just crumbled from me setting it down because of some unseen crack. Gabe freaked out and I just said, "I told you, dude, my house is haunted." The last part of the story involves Gabe. Gabe and I were in the house again, all alone. All of the windows were closed and we were sitting in the living room watching TV. We hear this creaking sound coming from the end of the hallway and look down the hallway. At the end, there is a cabinet door that covers the hot water heater. This door was opening very slowly, and we both sat there and stared at it in silence, as it completely opened. It stopped at completion for maybe 1 second before it slowly started to close again. By slowly, I mean it took about 5 seconds each time to open and close. Gabe was fully freaked out by this, and vowed to never come over to my house again. Anyway, that's my story. I don't think that the spirit that lived there was malevolent in any way. I just think that it wanted attention. Maybe the lady that lived there before us had her spirit imprinted on the location at her death. I moved to another town in my junior year of high school, and I haven't had any kind of encounters like that since. Whatever was happening at that house stayed at that house. 2. So, for context, I'm an 18-year-old female who used to work at a 24-hour subway. I worked there for almost 2 years until I quit this past July for mental health reasons. For over a year, I was one of the store openers, and would get there around 7 a.m. to start tasks. Keep in mind, I would usually be alone until around 9 or 10 when another co-worker's shift would start. Even though I only have a few scary stories from my 2 years of working there, I and some of my old co-workers still believed it was somewhat haunted. Okay, so one morning when I was alone, I was standing in the back when I heard from the front a woman's voice saying, "Hello, hello, hello." It was almost like a loud whisper. Of course, my first instinct is that the bell we have on the door didn't work and the customer is out there waiting. Except when I walked out to the front, there was no one there. Not even a car outside of the store. The song on the radio was a familiar song from the 90s sang by a male artist, so there is no way it could have been that. And why would an artist put background vocals of a creepy whisper in a song anyways? I remember hearing the first hello and turning my head and listening more carefully as it said hello 2 more times, so I know for a fact I did not imagine it. After this instance, I had another a while later where I was in the back and heard one of our bread cabinet doors slam shut out front. This is a very distinctive noise for anyone who has worked in a subway, because we are constantly getting bread and closing the cabinets. Immediately after I heard it shut, I ran out of the back to again see nothing, no customers, no cars out front, nothing. We also don't like to keep bread cabinets open since air could get in and make the bread stale, so I know for a fact I did not leave it open for the wind to shut it. My last story happened more than once on different occasions, and I would like to think that it was the spirit messing with me and wanting me to think I was crazy. Again, I would be in the back alone when I would hear what sounded like someone sweeping the floor in the front towards the cash register. It was a swoosh noise that would happen over and over again for at least 3 seconds at a time. The thing is that I would move slightly and it would start, and when I stopped moving, it took another second for it to stop. So I knew it wasn't me making the noise. For example, I would take a step, swoosh, I would stop, swoosh, and then it would stop. It would happen sometimes 5 times in a row, until I would walk to the front that is 3 feet away and see nothing. It would only happen when I was alone and would start to happen when I was just sitting or standing around on my phone in the back. I feel like the spirit wanted me to think that I was the one making the swoosh noise, while also making me feel creeped out at what I was hearing. Also, whenever I heard the swishing noise, I pictured a woman with blonde hair and a white dress, which I don't know why is what popped into my head when I heard it. At the time of these things last year, I was in a bad mental place and exhausted from always being out of the house at school, work, or competitive dance, which is why I feel like the spirit only really showed itself to me, because I was depressed and didn't have any friends at school. Even though those are my only experiences, I still feel as though there was a woman's spirit roaming around that subway. 3. Shortly after we moved into this house, a 1990s-era manufactured home, we have all experienced the same or similar paranormal events. The most common one we named the peeker. I'll start with some background info. My wife is gifted. We aren't even sure what to call her gift as it is multifaceted, but she can see events in detail, past, present, and future. She gets information that she has no way of knowing. Most of it consists of warnings and cautions. She can sense spirits, human or other, and often sees them. She has been visited by several close associates and relatives shortly after they died. She is the most sensitive of us. My daughter, who is now in her mid-teens, is the second most sensitive. She had an imaginary friend for years that we eventually had to banish with a ritual when it started getting possessive and creepy. I have seen evidence that it really existed outside of her imagination. The gift has faded somewhat for her as she matures, but she keeps her TV covered when it's off, and keeps a jar of blessed and charged witch's salt and a bottle of holy water in her room. I am the least gifted in the house, but more gifted than a normal person. Most of my gifts feel ancient, primitive, and shamanic in nature. There have been several instances of healing I have performed in my life. I cannot do it on command, only in the moment. I have a keen danger sense that has kept me safe my whole life. It is a feeling of don't or stop or you need to check, insert thing here right now. I have been asked to leave the building by psychics my wife has seen because they could not read her because I was shielding her completely from them. Her house is a long rectangle, and the north end is the animal and music room with a window facing the street. The bathroom at that end of the house is right next to that room. There is a long hallway from the living room to the bedrooms at the end of the house. My daughter's bedroom is the next room at the other end of the hallway. Then we have the combined and open living room and dining area and kitchen. The back end of the house is the master bedroom and bath. The washer and dryer are in a little alcove off the kitchen. After we moved in, we kept noticing that our eyes kept wandering to the hallway. The hallway just felt off. Not negative, just different and uncomfortable. I quizzed my wife and she said she felt it too, the feeling that something was there. This evolved to seeing movement, but nothing was there. My brain was perceiving movement, but my eyes didn't register it. This is a common theme with my wife and I. I can sense what's there, but she can sense it better or see it. She eventually admitted to me that she would see a shadow person peeking shyly at us from the hallway. It was always a male presence. I eventually began to see it, kinda. The hallway would appear darker than normal in a defined area. Then I started to see the actual peeker as it would retreat shyly. Sometimes it would wave a pale hand like a fluttering bird near the ceiling to get me to look at it. It's not harmful. However, we have had several instances of other entities in that same hallway. After some research, we realized that the freaking medicine cabinet was a portal. It is covered with mirrors on the side like a mirror box. I now have charged rock salt and black tourmaline on every shelf, which has helped. We also began to bless our house pretty often with rituals and incense to eject and repel negative entities. We allow for positive entities. The peeker has stayed. Every so often I hear my daughter's door open and her softly pray in the name of Jesus for her to be left alone, and then she tosses salt into the hallway. She hears footsteps and floor creaks outside her door sometimes. Once she watched a deeply black shape made of smoke rise up through the floor in her room. This was when I taught her how to protect herself and not to rely on her mother or myself to do it. On the advice of my wife and a few witch friends, I have stopped buying from antique and thrift shops. I was always bringing home attachments. All the old stuff I still have has been blessed and cleansed, except for one thing I forgot about. Shortly after moving in and before the peeker, I bought a beat-up used electric guitar from a local thrift shop. I was told it came from an estate sale and the former owner played it at church every Sunday in the band. I brought it home, cleaned it, restrung it, and adjusted and aligned it. It's a great guitar. I was cleaning in the music room, and as I was dusting that guitar, I noticed it was perfectly in tune. I haven't played it in a year or so. I checked the other guitars in my collection. Even the expensive ones were out of tune. It happens, it's normal. It's not normal for an off-brand beat-up old guitar to remain in tune unplayed for a year. My daughter does not play or know how to tune. Then it all clicked for me. The man played this instrument for 2 decades at church. He died. He was a Christian, so I assume he would be a positive ghost. I hadn't cleansed or blessed the guitar like I have the ones I bought since then. Could the picker be the former owner of this guitar with an attachment? Could he be energized by the portal medicine cabinet, allowing him to gain in power to become visible even to me? I'm going to find out in a few days when I ritually cleanse and bless the guitar to free the attachment. What do you think? 4. I'm male, and I was 5 years old 42 years ago. I don't know anything about the paranormal. My mom was going into labor with my younger brother, so Mom and Dad had me stay at my grandparents' for a couple of days. That happened to be over Christmas. Christmas morning was great. I still remember their silver vintage aluminium Christmas tree and the Crayola caddy that I unwrapped and had so wanted. That night something strange and terrifying happened. I shared a queen bed with my grandfather. Side note, there were 2 bedrooms, and my grandparents already slept in separate rooms for years. Snoring? I was woken in the middle of the night to the bed violently shaking. I gave a sense of intensity. Imagine the 4 legs of the bed were each sitting in industrial paint can mixers, synced up, turned on high. I had no idea what was going on. I was scared to death. My grandfather, however, was still sleeping through this. I tried desperately to shake him awake. Finally, he started to stir awake, and instantly the bed stopped still. I asked him, "Grandpa, what was making the bed shake? Why was the bed shaking?" Ruggedly, he had no idea what I was talking about and said, "The bed's not shaking. Go back to sleep." He turned back over and was snoring again in seconds. My adrenaline was jacked up, and I was in no way falling back asleep anytime. I just sat there, in the dark, in the silence. There was ambient light from the outside that dimly lit the room. The bedroom door was open, which it normally was. If at the foot of the bed you could look out the bedroom doorway, down the hall, and into the front room where the Christmas tree was. I sat up at the edge of the bed to look at the tree. As little kids, Christmas trees gave us a sense of comfort. As I looked at that tree, probably 30 feet away, I could see something was different. Now sitting beside the tree was a silhouette, a shadow shape, of a huge Doberman dog. By huge, I mean sitting on its hunches, still being over 5 feet tall. It just stared at me, no movement, no sound. It scared me. I hid under the covers and eventually fell asleep. Woke up to a beautiful, sunny winter morning. Now, nothing paranormal ever happened in that house again, to my knowledge. However, my grandfather would certainly turn out to be a complete monster. He went on to molest his grandchildren, including me, starting months later. He was always terribly verbally abusive to my grandma and was terribly physically abusive to my father and uncle when they were kids. Both of those grandparents have long since passed. I often wonder if there was a connection between this demonic or poltergeist activity and him. Did the activity cause him to act awful to his grandchildren? Or did he, already a terrible person, somehow unknowingly manifest the activity himself? If you have insight to beds violently shaking or huge dark-shadowed dogs or dobies, I'd appreciate it. To note, this occurred, right when my brother was actually being born a mile or 2 away, 3 a.m. local, December 26th, 1980, and maybe 6 hours after the Rendlesham Forest incident that happened thousands of miles away in England, 3 a.m. local, December 26th, 1980. Unsure if these events are purely coincidental. 5. Back in university days, I lived in a small 3-bedroom apartment with 2 other roommates. My roommate was on the topmost floor of the building, and also the last room on the floor, the corner room, is numbered 707. Our only neighbor is 706, which has been vacant for a while, so our side of the building is very quiet and sparse of people in general. There are 3 bedrooms, which were adjoined in an upside-down L shape, 1 room in the middle, 1 room to the left of it, and another room below it. For ease of storytelling, I will call it the middle room, bottom room, and left room. My own room is the bottom room. To be noted, these are Japanese rooms and a building. So wooden flooring, sliding doors, sliding closet inside the room, thin wood panel wall between rooms. The left room and middle room both had heavy sliding doors. Between the middle room and my bottom room, there was a hollow space that is a pretty large closet with sliding doors as well. It's the closet where you fold and store a futon and such, if you ever watched Doraemon. That's the same closet he sleeps in. The story happened on a summer vacation. The owner of the middle room had been away for a few days, and won't be back until the new semester started. One night, me and the left room owner were chilling in each of our rooms. The left room owner, Lefty, was supposed to leave for summer vacation in a week and had been packing. I kept hearing a loud thud and the sounds of something heavy hitting the wall and floor, but I ignored it because I assumed she was packing. About 11 p.m., Lefty texted me, "Yumi, are you okay? You sick?" I was so confused. Lefty continued, "I kept hearing someone sneezing and coughing. Isn't that you?" "No, I've been quiet this entire time. Isn't it you who's been moving around and packing boxes?" "What?" she says. "I haven't been packing anything at all today. I've been on my bed playing with my phone the entire time." Immediately, I put down my headset and laptop and just sat straight in my bed looking at the text on my phone, feeling somewhat disturbed. About 5 minutes later, Lefty came to my room and we both sat together, confirming with each other what we'd heard. She heard someone sniffing and sneezing. I heard thuds and the sound of something on the floor, like the sound of boxes or something pushed against the floor. We sat in silence in my room and the sound came again, thuds and knocks. Looking at each other, we figured it out. She thought the sound came from me. I thought the sound came from her. In between our 2 rooms, the common space is the unoccupied middle room. There was knocking, thuds, sounds of boxes moving, and there was a sound of footsteps for sure. It sounds like a very active person inside the room the entire night. Neither one of us wanted to go check, so we tried to ignore it and just slept it through. Fast forward to the morning. Lefty is an early riser, while I don't wake up till 9 or 10. My bed is on the right side of the door, but I sleep facing the door. I just woke up and I heard loud footsteps from outside my room like someone was running, and I saw a short shadow passing through the cracks of my slightly open door. It took my sleepy brain a while to process this. Running footstep sounds are very common because my room is beside the front door, so every school day my roommates would make this commotion outside my door when they're going out of the house. However, the first thing I finally noticed, this is summer vacation. Who would be running in a rush like this in the hallway? The second thing, that shadow looked too short to be my roommate. It's the height of a child. The third, I can see the shadow through the cracks of my slightly open door. Who opened my door? I don't sleep with my door opened. Feeling scared, I immediately texted Lefty and asked where she was. She said she had left the house at 7:30 a.m. because it's Sunday church and currently she's about to get lunch. She did not open my door nor touch my room, and it was closed when she left. I immediately got up and ran out of the house to meet Lefty and told her about this morning. We decided to drag another friend and ask him to help us check our apartment to see if there's anyone or something. The 3 of us walked into the apartment and towards the middle room. We noticed something weird. The door was slightly opened. It was a sliding door, and quite heavy, so there is no way it can open by itself. We confirmed that neither me nor Lefty had touched that door since the owner left last week. It was always closed. Our friend opened the room, and we immediately felt chills. He asked where did we hear the sound coming from, and I said from my room it sounds like it came very close, right on the wall, connected between my room and this middle room. That's when we realized the wall connected between my room and this middle room, where we heard all the activities. It was inside the closet. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 304, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now, before we go on, please hit the like button and share the video around with the friends and family. The living ones, unless they have Wi-Fi in the afterlife. Right, let's see. Let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, following on from the other day's scintillating question regarding peas, I feel I must know. I must ask the question of you. It is controversial, I know. You will find it shocking coming from me, as I am a man of great dignity. But I need to know about potatoes. Do you like them fried, boiled, mashed and boiled, fried and froiled? Do you chip them? Do you slice them? Do you rice them? Do you dice them? What's your favorite way to prepare potatoes? My favorite, I've described this before, is bubble and squeak. It is technically when you take all the leftovers of a meal, until one day I was struck upon the genius idea of realizing you don't have to do that. You can literally just make the things and put it together. So my favorite way to do that now is I'll get chicken. I'm lazy and I get little pre-bags of chicken. If not, then I'll get like mini chicken fillets here, quite good. I'll get chicken. I'll put various veg in. I'm quite fond of broccoli and cauliflower at the moment, and I usually sprinkle some Brussels sprouts in as well because hated them as a kid, really enjoy them as an adult, and I'll roast them in the air fryer. I'm lucky I've got a little air fryer that has a paddle that moves things about. So I roast them in the air fryer. Then I cook the potatoes, right? And I'm also lazy at doing them as well. I do them in the frying pan, right, with water and the lid. Actually seems to cook a lot better, surprisingly. Then I mash them all in there, whip them up, put everything in together, mix it all together. Then I fry it until it's kind of crispy on the top and the bottom. Then they serve that up. So that's my favorite way to do potatoes. And I'm making myself hungry thinking about it. I might do that again this weekend. But let me know what yours are. Your favorite potato dishes, be they simple, be they complex. It doesn't matter as long as you enjoy them, and I would love to hear what they are. I look very much forward to reading your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.